writing, but you have to have calculations.
And leadership.
Exactly.
With the evidence of how old or when it was built, who built it, and how it was built. Might be there, but we haven't found it yet. I can imagine that people saw this and thought this must have been the work of a giant.
Right.
Throughout the Mediterranean, you see an association with giants constructing megaliths. For instance, in Mycenaean Greece, there's a structure called the Lion's Gate. Aristotle mentioned that this construction style was called Cyclopean masonry because of the large stones. The ancient Greeks figured that only a giant called Cyclops could have had the strength to move these. But the same sort of Cyclopean masonry is present in the Maltese temples as well.
These stories of giants have been an integral part of our entire human history since the beginning of time. So, is it possible that the reason why we have these stories of these giants is because at one point they actually existed? And the answer to that is yes. Could it be possible that the temples at Gigantia were built by gigantic otherworldly beings who inhabited the islands of Malta thousands of years ago? To search for further clues, Giorgio will next visit one of Malta's most mysterious megalithic complexes, where he is joined by his longtime friend and mentor, Eric von Daniken. The Island of Malta, 2022. While investigating local legends that a race of giant extraterrestrial beings once inhabited this area more than 5,000 years ago.
We're here. We're here again. We made it.
Giorgio Tsoukalos meets with his longtime friend, Eric von Daniken, author of the 1968 international bestseller, Chariots of the Gods, which established the foundation for the ancient astronaut theory. They have arranged to visit one of the most mysterious sites on the islands, called Hajarim, which archaeologists believe might be Malta's second oldest megalithic structure, built shortly after Gigantia.
Hajar is a Maltese temple complex that has multiple temples on it as well. The oldest one, in the northern temple, dates to the mid-4th millennium BC.
You see colossal, huge stones, huge walls and doorways, and it's clear that it's very, very old. It's something that it would be almost indestructible. And in fact, it's been there for thousands of years. Located near Malta's southern shores, the temples of Hajarim are believed by mainstream archaeologists to have been constructed by the same primitive culture who created the temples of Gigantia on the neighboring island of Gozo.
Good morning, gentlemen.
How are you? Pleasure.
Thank you.
Eric von Daniken.
Joining Giorgio once again is local historian Frans van Avendonk.
Incredible. Look at this. So, what are we talking about here? How tall is it?
About 6 meters.
Wow. So that's about 17, 18 feet, yeah?
Something like that. Maybe it was even bigger because of the erosion. It could have been a bit higher and it surely had a roof.
I mean, just incredible.
Now, whether it was a stone roof or a wooden roof, there is still discussion about it. But it was covered and the whole wall must have reached at least this height.
And the whole temple is orientated astronomically.
Yeah, so at the sunrise on the winter solstice, and you would be here at the back, you would see the sun coming up over the horizon through the entrance. And if you are patient, you stay here till the evening, you see over there another temple, which will have a light phenomena during the sunset of the same day.
It's all oriented astronomically. It had to do something with the stars, with the universe, definitely.
This must have been a very important building for them, and that's why they put so much effort in creating the building.
Mainstream historians continue to debate what purpose the temples at Hajarim might have served. But a recent recent discovery has led some to suggest that the site has an otherworldly connection.
This is known as the Oracle Room. And the room has something special. Look at the oval inside. There is a very strong magnetic field inside that oval. It's believed that women
เดี๋ยว
wear
ฮัลโหล
it.
ฮัลโหลอ๋อฮัลโหลพี่นาวะโทษทีเย็ด 啊，你message 我，message 我，message 我啊！我在驾车，message 我啊。OK，好，拜拜。真的这个东西哦，在哪里？
Certain experiences, hear sounds, see flashes, lost contact with the gods.
The so-called Oracle Chamber is believed to have been used thousands of years ago as a place where worshippers communicated with their goddesses. And it is here that a statue was discovered which is believed to represent one of those deities.
In this room, behind the partition, they found a number of statues. Among them, the famous Venus of Malta, which is a statue of the goddess.
Mainstream researchers believe the Venus of Malta is approximately 5,000 years old and was used in fertility rituals. But ancient astronaut theorists suggest it served an even more profound purpose and depicts an otherworldly being. As evidence, they point to similar effigies of Sansuna, the giant goddess who is said to have built the temple of Gigantia.
Sansuna was this huge person, a giant, which was carrying a half-human, half-giant child of hers. So she's a giant, like the extraterrestrials, but she's mating with a human. We also have the same story found in other areas as well.
Curiously, similar accounts of giant beings mating with humans can be found in the traditions of ancient civilizations all around the world, including those of Mesoamerica, India, Egypt, and even in scriptures contained in the Holy Bible.
There are tales of giants in all corners of the earth. Various monumental structures have been attributed to giants. But we have scriptures that there were giants among men. In the Bible, the giants are called the Nephilim.
And we first meet the Nephilim in the book of Genesis, chapter 6, and where it tells us that the sons of God came upon the daughters of men and that they beget these giant children called the Nephilim.
This is mentioned in several books. The story of David fighting against Goliath. Goliath was a giant. In the fourth book of the Bible, there it says, at those days there were 4 million of David fighting against Goliath. Goliath was a giant. In the fourth book of the Bible, there it says, at those days there were 4,091,000 giants on earth. So obviously giants were on earth and giants were on Malta.
Is it possible that Malta was once home to a race of extraterrestrial giants, as ancient traditions suggest? Perhaps further evidence can be found by examining another of Malta's engineering masterpieces, one that doesn't tower above ground, but tunnels deep beneath it. The island of Malta, 1902. While constructing a new housing development in the town of Paula, a team of laborers makes a perplexing discovery. They uncover the entrance to a massive underground cavern system that has been ingeniously carved out of the bedrock. The accidental discovery is considered by many to be the greatest engineering feat of the entire Neolithic age. and comes to be known as the Hypogeum of Hal Saflieni.
Archaeologists realised that this was a huge underground network of chambers and corridors. You enter down into it and there are a series of 3 different levels. All of them are interconnected.
The 3 levels of the Hypogeum descend more than 30 feet below ground. The connecting chambers, halls, and passageways cover more than 5,000 square feet.
This is a remarkable structure, particularly when you bear in mind they didn't have metal tools. But it's subterranean, hewn from solid rocks somehow, and it's just mind-boggling.
Based on pottery sample analysis and examination of human remains, mainstream archaeologists have dated the Hypogeum to around 3700 BC and believe it was made by the same people who built Malta's above-ground structures. However, ancient astronaut theorists suggest that just like with the megalithic temples, there is evidence that the Hypogeum could be more than 12,000 years old.
There was this bell fresco that was painted in black. It was actually recorded and written about by various archaeologists up into the 1970s and 80s. It has been noted that this bell fresco resembles Paleolithic cave art that goes back to 50 to 20,000 years in places such as Spain and other European countries. And this particular design, which was made of black manganese oxide, which we know was used in Paleolithic times, was actually cleaned away and rubbed out, if you like, by just one of the workers there in the 1980s. And so these sites could be much older than what the archaeologists.
There is evidence that the Hypogeum could be more than 12,000 years old.
There was this bell fresco that was painted in black. It was actually recorded and written about by various archaeologists up into the 1970s and 80s. It has been noted that this bell fresco resembles Paleolithic cave art that goes back to 50 to 20,000 years in places such as Spain and other European countries. And this particular design, which was made of black manganese oxide, which we know was used in Paleolithic times, was actually cleaned away and rubbed out, if you like, by just one of the workers there in the 1980s. And so these sites could be much older than what the archaeologists are telling us.
For reasons of preservation, access to the Hypogeum is currently restricted by the Maltese government. So to learn more about this subterranean structure, Giorgio Tsoukalos and Eric von Daniken traveled to Malta's National Museum of Archaeology.
Good to see you again. How are you? Okay.
There, they are once again joined by local historian Frans van Avendonk to examine a miniature-scale model of the structure.
Has anybody figured out why any of these chambers existed, and was there chambers that existed earlier, or did all of this happen at once?
They started with a cave, and on top of the cave, a surface temple was built, and then they started expanding the cave, slowly downwards, and also horizontally. And they developed a maze of chambers and of different sizes and different functions.
Look at this, you have a spiral staircase going down, and I remember being there in the late 80s, and if you stood back there and you whispered, and you had another person over here, they could hear you perfectly. So the acoustics in there are amazing.
Yes, there are very special acoustics. Voices of a certain timbre are heard magnified, while others, they are not audible inside other parts of the underground structure. Why they did it like that, we can't explain.
In February 2014, archaeoacoustics researcher Linda Enix assembled a team of audio, geology, and archaeology experts to test the acoustic properties of the Hypogeum Oracle Room.
Archaeoacoustics is a multidisciplinary study to explore what was going on with sound in ancient places and how people were using it. I was very familiar with Malta's hypogeum and the sound effects that were quite peculiar in that place. And when I learned about archaeoacoustics, it sort of lit a fire.
What Linda and her team discovered while examining the hypogeum was sensational.
The oracle chamber resonates at several frequencies that are very close to 110 hertz. The number 110 hertz can be identified clearly with the note, with A on the musical scale and a lower octave within the baritone range.
In 2013, Dr. Ian Cook, the Associate Director of the UCLA Laboratory of Brain, Behavior, and Pharmacology, conducted an experiment to determine if the 110 hertz sound frequency has any effect on the human brain.
His tests were on a group of volunteers at 110 hertz. He found something happened. There was a shift in brain activity.
That frequency will deaden certain brain patterns and bring alive others, and there is a sense of connection with the otherworldly. So it would seem that whoever created the hypogeum did this with the specific reason of whoever went in there could attain communion with the gods themselves.
Is it possible that the hypogeum of House Saflieni functioned as a place where humans could interact with otherworldly beings thousands of years ago? And was this subterranean structure connected to Malta's ancient legends of giants that came down from the stars? Perhaps further clues can be found by examining an incredible discovery that was made deep within the hypogeum. Thousands of elongated skulls. Haula Malta, 1907. 5 years after the discovery of the hypogeum of House Saflieni, archaeologists excavating the subterranean chambers begin to uncover human remains. In total, they find an estimated 7,000 skeletons, and reportedly, a great many of them have skulls that are noticeably elongated.
It was found that some of the skulls were actually elongated. They were almost like the head going backwards rather than upwards. Does that represent the fact that they were doing head binding? They were pressed into shape when these people were babies?
Head binding, also known as artificial cranial deformation, has been a practice of numerous primitive cultures around the world, dating from prehistoric times all the way into the 20th century. It involves tightly wrapping the heads of infants before their skulls fully harden, resulting in an elongated shape. Archaeologists and anthropologists agree that this was done because of worshiping some type of deity. A deity with an elongated skull? That's interesting. Where did they get this inspiration from? So I am suggesting that our ancestors were visited by beings, flesh and blood beings, that had actual elongated skulls, and that was their natural appearance. Our ancestors wanted to imitate their gods, and so they did artificial head binding so that the skull would grow in this elongated fashion. And this happened on all continents around the world, including Europe and on the island of Malta. What could these elongated skulls have belonged to? Are they the result of head binding? Or could they have belonged to beings who were of otherworldly origin? Today, only a handful of the elongated skulls that were discovered in the hypogeum still exist. They now belong to Malta's National Museum of Archaeology, where Giorgio and Eric have been examining the model of the hypogeum. Although the skulls have been temporarily removed for scientific study, Eric and Giorgio are given rare access to a custom piece of the museum's collection.
Patrice previously had an exhibit of the original skulls, but at the moment is being studied. But these are a perfect replica that you can handle and examine.
The museum replica is modeled after one of the actual elongated skulls Giorgio had the opportunity to examine in person on a previous trip to Malta in 2014.
Something is wrong here. Something radically wrong here.
This. You're missing
The sagittal suture.
The sagittal suture connects to the sides and roof of the cranium. This suture is open when a person is born and closes around the age of 35.
So I actually brought a picture of what a human sagittal suture would look like, which would go across here, and it is missing. This is not, in our opinion, the result of artificial head binding, but this is authentic, it's real. So the ones that do not have the sutures, in my opinion, could be the extraterrestrials.
The conclusion is so easy. The facts are facts, and these skulls are not human. The extraterrestrials, they had elongated heads. And in my opinion, the extraterrestrials were the giants. And they had sex with humans. And slowly, for generation, we became smaller.
Do the skulls represent a genetic trait, possibly linked with giants, intermingling with the local population, and the genetic alterations then occur as
Not.
An exhibit of the original skulls, but at the moment is being studied. But these are a perfect replica that you can handle and examine.
The museum replica is modeled after one of the actual elongated skulls Giorgio had the opportunity to examine in person on a previous trip to Malta in 2014.
Something is wrong here. Something radically wrong here.
This. You're missing
The sagittal suture.
The sagittal suture connects to the sides and roof of the cranium. This suture is open when a person is born and closes around the age of 35.
So I actually brought a picture of what a human sagittal suture would look like, which would go across here, and it is missing. This is not, in our opinion, the result of artificial head binding, but this is authentic, it's real. So the ones that do not have the sutures, in my opinion, could be the extraterrestrials.
The conclusion is so easy. The facts.
The museum's collection.
We previously had an exhibit of the original skulls, but at the moment is being studied. But these are a perfect replica that you can handle and examine.
The museum replica is modeled after one of the actual elongated skulls Giorgio had the opportunity to examine in person on a previous trip to Malta in 2014.
Something is wrong here. Something radically wrong here.
This. You're missing
The sagittal